Hello, welcome back to JJ's Bakehouse. I'm Jenny and today I'm going to be showing you how to make some double chocolate chip cupcakes. These are so nice. So let's begin. Now to start with, what I'm going to do is put my chocolate chips that I'm going to put into the batter into the microwave, and it takes about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. I want them to be tacky, so that we can add some flour to them. It'll stick, so that when we put the chocolate chips in, they don't all stick right to the bottom. So let's go and heat this in the microwave first, and we'll sort out the chocolate chips before we carry on with anything else. So I'm just going to pop this in. Okay, this took me 1.5 minutes. Initially I put it in for 30 seconds and then shook it, and then put it back in for another 30 seconds, shook it, and then I did it in 15-second bursts there. The minute it starts sticking to the bottom, I mean mine's already started to melt there on the bottom, but you're trying to keep it, you want it tacky, like this, okay? And this will just dry off now, but before it does, we're going to add 1/2 tablespoon of flour, any flour, to these, and then because they're tacky, the flour's going to stick to them, and that's going to stop them from sinking. But if you were just to put flour over the top, when they weren't sticky, it's just going to fall straight off and it was pointless. Any that are stuck together, just pull them apart, the flour will keep it apart. Nice sticky job. And then just keep going with your hands, moving it all around to make sure that they are coated in the flour. And in here I had 150 grams of chocolate chips. So I've divided mine between white chocolate and milk chocolate, but you can use dark chocolate, you can use all white milk chocolate. It really doesn't make any difference. It's completely your choice. I'm actually going to add a tiny little bit more flour to this. So bear with me just one sec. Okay. So that'll make a tablespoon of flour altogether. It just didn't quite look. That's better. Covered enough. There we are. I'm happy with that. It's exactly the way I want that to be. So now we just leave these on the side, and we'll pop them in later. Right, I'll put those behind me and just give my hands a wipe. Right, and then we're going to go on with the ingredients. So I will put all of the ingredients in the description box underneath, so don't worry about that. Let's get rid of that as well. So my regular method as I normally do it. Now I have 2 paddles here. I have a cream paddle and a regular paddle. Now I love a cream paddle. I think this makes my life so much easier. It's the best thing ever. Stops you having to stop and scrape down, it cuts time off, especially when doing buttercream. But because, I don't know if you've all got them, for the purposes of a tutorial, I'm going to go back to a regular one. If you do have one of these, or you haven't got one, really suggest getting one. They are so good. Sorry about that, needed to wash my hands, it was sticky and I just couldn't cope with that. Right, so we're going to put the butter in. So unsalted, now you can use butter that's softened, or you can use the baking spreads that you get in the tub. It's really your choice. So that's going to go in here, and then also 175 grams of caster sugar, or sugar if you don't have caster sugar. Now I've got a lovely sunny day today, which is a really pleasant surprise for us. So my bowl is lovely, it's just regular, so it's fine. But if you have a very cold day, then just take this bowl and pop it into your oven that's preheating for around about 60 seconds, just to take to a minute, just to take that edge off, and make sure you can hold the bowl but it's not freezing, and that will stop that butter from completely sticking to the sides. But if you're not in a very cold place, no need to do that at all. Right. So, what we're going to do now, if you've seen any of my tutorials before, you're going to know that I'm going to put this on a medium to high speed, medium to start with, up to the high speed, and we are going to whip this for 3 minutes, stopping halfway through to scrape down until this is light and fluffy. And that's what we're going to do now. See you in a moment. Okay, mine's been going there for 1.5 minutes. So as you can see, it is becoming nicer and all fluffy, but not enough. So we're just going to scrape that bowl down, making sure we get all of it. And we're going to put it back on for another minute and a half on a high speed, and then that should be exactly where we want it. Right, so what you're looking for is, if you can see here, the colour on this has changed. It is so much lighter, and it's almost like a mousse now. And that's what we need. And if you haven't been able to use caster sugar and you are using that granulated sugar, that's going to dissolve some of it, and that's going to help with the bake. So this is your air. And all sponges, excuse me, need air in them to make them light and fluffy. This is where we put in that air into that butter, so it's really important. So if it doesn't look quite aerated enough, put it back on again and keep it whipping until you're really confident that that has got enough air in it. You can go for anything up to about 4 minutes, just to make sure that that is really whipped up. It really depends how much you're whipping it for by the heat, because if your butter's a little bit more solid, then it's going to take longer to turn into that fluffy texture that you need it to be, whereas if it's hot, the butter isn't as much and it's going to whip into it a lot quicker. So now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. So I'm going to pop my eggs into here, and that was 3 large eggs. I weighed them out, it was 168 grams, so I do recommend weighing out the eggs if you want to as well. I put my bowl on my scales, crack them into the bowl and bring them as close as I can. Within about 20 grams is fine, but under, not over. Right, so in with the egg, and then we're going to pop in the flour and cocoa powder. So I've got 175 grams of plain flour here and 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. You can use self-raising flour if you like. The reason I don't is because I like to control the raising agent that I'm putting in, and if I use it separately like this, I'm kind of guaranteed that it's going to be around about the same every time I do it. Sometimes bags can vary and alter with the self-raising, so I just prefer to do it this way, but self-raising is absolutely fine. So if you are using plain, I've got a teaspoon of baking powder, and that's going to go in as well. So I'm going to put all of that into my mixer, along with 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla and a tablespoon of milk, and 75 grams of melted chocolate of your choice. I've used milk chocolate. If you prefer dark chocolate, or if you're doing a white chocolate cake, a cupcake, use white chocolate. Again, your choice. So in all that goes. And we don't want to knock all of that air out. So we're going to put this on a really low speed. Put a tea towel over the top so it doesn't get us. Okay, a really low speed there. Till it's just combined, and at most you want to allow this to go round for a minute. Okay, so if you need to time it, but we don't want to overbeat it. If we overbeat it, you're going to knock all of that lovely air out with the heaviness of the flour, and that's certainly not what we want. So I'm going to stop it for now and scrape it all down, and then give it another 30 seconds, and this is going to be perfect. Just make sure you get it all off the bottom. That egg must be combined. And just to say, I've had quite a few people ask me about hand mixers. So if you're not using a stand mixer for this and you're using a hand mixer, add all the ingredients in like I've said, but leave the flour out and fold that flour in yourself. You do not want the speed of that hand mixer to hit this batter. Okay? Right. I think we're good to get this out now. It looks really lovely and silky and combined, which is just what we want. Now, let's take these chocolate chips and add half of the chocolate chips by eye in there. Oops. So we'll pop the half in there. Just give that a couple of stirs round. That's plenty. And we're going to add the rest manually in a moment. So now we're going to put it into our piping cases. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can put this in the with a spoon and judging every time. But I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, you get them uneven. So I'm going to show you how to put it in with a piping bag. And actually, it can give you a more even amount that you're putting in. So I've got a piping bag, put it over a jug, and put my hand right down to the bottom, just to make sure that everything in there is going to be reached. Sorry, let me just wipe that down. Get rid of that one. Okay. Scrape off your scraper. Just another mix around of this one, making sure it's all there, and that will help any of those chocolate chips that didn't quite get there. And then we're just going to pop it into this piping bag. Now I'd use a jug for this, not a glass. You would have seen on some of my tutorials I use a glass, but it would be too narrow. You want this a bit wider. There we go. There we are. Put that to the side. Pick up our piping bag, let it shake down, not too vigorously, don't want to knock out all that air. Okay, don't twist this time and push down because you're going to knock air out, so you just want to let it hang. And then on the bottom, you want about 2 centimetres across the bottom, a good inch, and then just go down and around until you've filled 3/4 of the cases, and you can see better then that it all looks the same. And if you do the same motion every time, then you know that you have got it around about the same. Make sure that hole isn't too small, because if the hole's too small, then you're going to knock out air because you're pushing it through a hole that's too small. You want it to fall out easier. There we go. Nearly there. That one just looks a little bit less. Okay, my cupcakes are done. Now, I had a slight problem. I am so sorry. Let me just grab them out. Okay, at the end of my video, I was talking away in here, but apparently to myself, because my SD card completely filled up. So you missed the last part of me putting the second half of the chocolate chips in, but I can talk you through that because it's really quite easy. I just took sprinkles of the chocolate chips and put them over the top of each of the cupcakes, the batter, and then just push them slightly, very slightly into the batter, not push them down, just so that you can still see, because you can still see them on the top here, so they literally looked the same. Okay, so I just sprinkled the last half of the cupcake mixtures, I sprinkled the last half, sorry, of the chocolate chips over the top of each one of these, and this is the way they have come out. Okay, so these are lovely, really quite simple to do. Just make sure that you take half of that chocolate chip mixture and put it into the batter, and the other half sprinkled across the top. These took me 19 minutes in the oven at 160, so these are absolutely lovely. Now I can't open one because if I open one they're a bit too hot. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to take these out and put them onto a wire rack. Don't take them out immediately, but my pan has cooled. If you leave cupcakes in their cases in the pan, then that's when condensation can form and the peeling effect can happen on your cupcakes. So as soon as you can touch the pan, take them out, but don't take them out immediately because they'll get a shock when they hit the cold air from being so hot. So I suggest leaving them in for a minute and then taking them out and putting them on a wire rack. So I hope you really enjoyed this and you love these double chocolate chip cupcakes. And you can have a look on my channel there. I've also got a really nice chocolate buttercream which will go really well on the top of this. Also a Swiss meringue chocolate buttercream if you really want to be decadent, and that is nice. So I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.